Hi, I'm Enrique, and today we're going to learn how to draw a superhero. When it comes to drawing superheroes, there are an unlimited amount of approaches that you can take. In general, superheroes tend to embody certain positive attributes which we want to reflect. With superhero franchises constantly being made, it's no surprise that they continue to be a source of entertainment from here on.
Using traditional superheroes as a basis, we're going to go over anatomy, action poses, and perspective drawing. You may have noticed that the average superhero is a lot lankier than a regular-sized person. If you're measuring an average human at 6 to 7 heads tall, the average superhero measures about 7 to 8 heads tall. Another thing you probably noticed about comic book heroes is the way they end up looking like walking anatomy charts, drawn with every muscle visible against their tight, bright-colored spandex.
One thing to take note is that muscles tend to work in pairs. So when one muscle is flexed, the other one is relaxed. Look at the bicep and tricep. When the bicep is flexed, the tricep is relaxed, and vice versa.
Sternocleidomastoideus, pectoralis major, trapezius, deltoid, triceps, biceps, abdominal wall, latissimus dorsi, the oblique, brachioradialis,
Quadriceps,
gastrocnemius.
Now, let's go over the back view.
Deltoid, trapezius, tricep, bicep, latissimus dorsi, gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, biceps femoris, gastrocnemius, extensors,
Scapula,
We've overviewed the basics of anatomy, so let's jump into drawing. For stage 1, we're going to draw really light on the paper so you can barely see it. Or, if you can't stand eraser dust, another option would be to draw very darkly on the paper, then put another sheet over it so that you can see your skeletal work underneath. Considering we're drawing superheroes, we're going to want to get really comfortable drawing the body in motion. There's no need to panic over figure drawing here. All we have to do to start is create a gesture line. This line is going to follow the directional movement of the body, normally following the curve of the spine. Create the gesture line of your overall pose and pay attention to the action that's going on. Is he jumping, flying, running, etc.? The next step is to indicate where on the line your ribcage and pelvis are going to be. I like to indicate the ribcage with a circle and the pelvis with a box. If you have trouble estimating where on the spine these are going to fall, try tracing over photographs of people in motion. Just trace the gesture lines of the spine, pelvis, and ribcage. Doing this repeatedly is going to help you conceptualize where these points fall and where they create angles in relation to each other. When you're ready to move on to the shoulders, you can use a short, almost horizontal line to mark where they fall. I say almost horizontal because I find that making the shoulders uneven creates a more dynamic pose and prevents your picture from looking like the character's high school yearbook photo. Also, this makes one side of the torso a little bit crunched up while the other side is outstretched. We all know there's nothing more badass than tough guys displaying bad posture. Continuing our glorified stick figure, we can now indicate the limbs with more lines so we know where the approximate length, angles, and position of the arms and legs are. Again, if you have trouble, turn to real-life photos for some visual assistance. Mark the joints and where the limbs are going to end. This is going to save you from messed up proportions later on. Not so hard, right? At this stage, we're going to establish a general thickness of the limbs. Think in 3D and pretend the limbs are cylinders. Reference back to the muscle charts that I gave you. As they say, 90% of drawing is seeing. And the hardest part about making this easy is training your brain to find the simple shapes and forms which make up the complicated human anatomy. Take it slow and don't expect to nail it on the first try. Now, let's go over some basic things about the face. To start, do your best to draw the basic head outline and divide it into thirds. Don't overthink it. You want to make your thirds at what will become the hairline, brow line, below the nose, and the bottom of the chin. This gives you a ballpark vertical range between the distance of your facial features to help your drawing look more human. Your hairline is where the vertical plane of your forehead begins to curve into the top of your head. Also, when I'm creating my hairline, my strategy is to think about the hair firstly as one large mass, and then pull out some directional lines for the flow. I want to show that the large shape is made of smaller hairs connecting to the skull. I want to say a few things about perspective. When you're drawing action poses, you might find yourself wanting to progress past aggression-earned images into poses where limbs are actually coming out towards the viewer. To do this, we have to create perspective on a two-dimensional surface that mimics the way that we see the real world around us. Because think about it, we in fact see things in 2 dimensions. Our brain just trains us to organize things based on visual cues. One of these cues is that things appear larger when they're closer to us, and consequently, things appear smaller when they're farther away. We can mimic this concept in drawing through foreshortening, or drawing something to appear shorter to make it look like it's projecting towards the viewer. Look at this cylinder. The closer one surface of the cylinder gets to us, the shorter the object appears overall. Remember before when I asked you to think of the limbs as cylinders? This is why.
Another visual cue which helps us organize our two-dimensional view of reality is overlapping. Overlapping is most easily understood with simple shapes. Here is Toki. Toki sees 2 shapes. In order for Toki to be able to tell which shape is closer to her, one object would have to overlap the other, showing that they are on 2 separate planes. The human body works the same way. Because the human body is made up of simple shapes, we apply overlapping to the form and anatomy. Take a look at this arm. In this first example, there is no overlapping. Everything is on the same plane. On this next example, the deltoid slightly overlaps the bicep, showing that it's closer to us. The same goes for the bicep and the forearm. In the next example, we have the elbow and forearm closest, and those slightly overlap the bicep, showing that the bicep is further away from us. The more I know about the placement of the body and limbs, the easier overlapping is going to become, and the more I'm going to be able to trust what I see visually in a model or picture. After you practice the tips I've given you each stage, you can put on any mask or costume over your hero. Repetition increases your skill and consistency. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, stay creative.